Good afternoon. It's April the 11th, 2020, a beautiful Saturday afternoon around 5:15 p.m., and I'm sitting here with my beautiful mother, Evelyn Johnson Minton. And how are you today, Mom?
I'm great because of this beautiful day in the sunshine, and it just makes me happy.
And tomorrow is Easter, and I can't think of anybody in the world that I'd rather spend my Easter weekend with than you, Mom.
Well, me too. I love you. I love spending it with you, and we always have a lot of fun, no matter where we are or any place. We enjoy ourselves.
Or even what we're doing, we're sitting here right here. You live on hole 1 of the golf course, Ridgefield's golf course, and we're looking at all the children and the little puppies outside running and playing while you and I are in here doing this podcast together. And we've got my little puppy Blue that has to hang out with us all the time, and he's tired of playing with those animals. He wants to be with me and you. He's a smart puppy. Well, Mom, today, if it's okay with you, I would like to talk to you about your sister, my Aunt Rachel. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. I'd love to talk about her too.
Well, do you want to tell me a few things about growing up with Rachel, how close you guys were, and some of the things you did together?
Yes, we were real close. Well, my brothers and sisters, we always got along good, and we were close. And when we'd go out, we'd all go out together. And we went to this club one night, and there was a band there, and Haskell, he was there, and he was in the Army, and he asked me to dance with him, so I did. And so when we went back to the table, Rachel said, "Oh, he's nice looking and everything." I said, "Why don't you dance with him or something and see if you like him?" And so she did. And after that, they started dating and they got married, and they were really, really loved each other, and they got along good. And they had one daughter named Diane, and they were just real happy together.
Well, that's wonderful. You know, it's so funny. You could have ended up with Haskell.
Yes, I could have, but he wasn't my type.
Right. You knew instantly that he was well suited for Rachel, couldn't you tell?
Yes, I could, yes.
Mom, that's a great call. I'm so glad that you're so wise.
Yeah, I looked at him and looked at Rachel, and I said to myself, they should be together. And sure enough, they were.
That's really interesting. I never knew how they met.
That's how they met.
Well, that is really interesting. Was there anybody else with you guys that night? Were any of your brothers or just you two?
No, my brothers was with me. Clint was there, and Charlie, and Ben wasn't there, I don't think.
Were you in Virginia or Tennessee?
We was in Virginia.
Okay. Well, tell me about the way that Aunt Rachel was in your family and the way she felt about your parents. I always knew her to love your parents deeply.
Oh, she did. She's crazy about Mom and Dad. She would come down there. I'd go up and before I went to work on 311, I would go to her home and help Mom and do the things that she wanted me to do, make her bed or just anything she wanted me to do. And then a little while, Rachel and Haskell would come down, and she would stay a while, and she'd go pay her bills, and I usually took Dad to the grocery store, and sometimes she would, but I did most of the work in the house because she went to pay the bills and did other things for them.
Well, so now at one point, didn't Rachel live beside your parents, my grandparents? She lived right beside of them.
Yes, she did. She lived beside of Mom and Dad. And
was that the same house that Clint lived in too?
Yes, it was the same house.
Who lived there first, Rachel and Haskell or Clint?
No, Rachel and Haskell. And they sold the they sold that house to Clint.
Oh, okay.
That's what they did.
Well, that was pretty neat for Mama and Papa to be able to have Rachel next door and then Clint next door.
That's right. She always had, and then I'd go up there every day. I never missed a day, I don't think, going to see her and helping her.
Can you believe I remembered that?
Yeah, I can believe that because you're good at remembering things.
I sure do remember anytime if you were working 3 to 11, if you were not off and we stayed at Mama's house, Rachel would come up and she'd visit with us there, or sometimes we'd go to her house. But she was a good driver and she was funny. And I used to call her Richie Rachel because she would do all kinds of things for me. She'd get me ice cream and buy me toys. And you remember that?
Yes, I do. She was a really good person.
Rachel was not the type of person to hand out compliments. You know, the best compliment she ever gave me was, "I love the way you take care of your mother." And she gave me that compliment as an adult. So all those years, I don't really remember a compliment from her until just within the last 10 years.
Yeah, she was not the kind of person to give a compliment to. I don't know why, but she didn't. I don't guess she thought that, she didn't like the way they looked or something like that, that she just not say anything.
Aunt Rachel passed away before Christmas in 2016, and this year it's, this Christmas will be 4 years, but it's three and a half years so far that she's been passed away, and it's just, it still doesn't seem real. It just seems like, we could pick up the phone and call her. I miss her so much.
Yeah, I do too. Many times I went to call her and to ask her something because she was so wise. She knew all of our history and just anything that she would ask her, she would give you an answer to it, and it would always be helpful and the things that she would tell us.
She was so good to me, Mom, and I miss her so much. And she was good to all little children. Children loved her.
Yes, they did. They just when they was around her, they was always in her lap or even talking to her or having fun with her or something. But I just loved her. She's a real good sister.
I loved it when she would come out to the office and spend half the day with you and bring her breakfast and bring you breakfast, and you guys would sit there and eat together and watch news.
Yes, that's what we did. And Diane, she'd go on and do whatever she wanted to do, and she'd leave Rachel there with us, and we'd watch TV and talk about just anything about old times, that happened years ago or things that happened new, and we'd just catch up.
Rachel really loved Trevor and Shonda, her grandchildren.
Oh, yes, she did. She loved them to death. She just really did. And when Haskell passed, she was just heartbroken, and the children were, and they moved away.
She was heartbroken when Papa died, and then Mama lived a long time after Papa, and I think after Mama died, that really broke her spirit.
Yes, it did. It sure did.
It did everybody, because I think Mama Johnson, she was absolutely I loved all my grandparents, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But Mama Johnson was my favorite. I loved everything about her. She was just so real and down to earth, spent so much time with me, and, would play music and laugh and go outside and be out in the garden with me. Those times you just never forget.
No, you don't. She was, and you never seen her upset about anything. She's always happy and smiling, and just seemed like she loved for us to come to see her.
She was always laughing. Rachel and Mama Johnson would laugh a lot together.
Yeah, they would. They would sit and laugh and tell jokes or tell something happened or something. And it just my family was real close and happy.
Rachel was also really good to Mama's brothers and sisters, like Aunt Belle, remember?
Oh, yes, Aunt Belle was a sweet person. She lived with us for a long time.
And Rachel was close to her, too.
Rachel was real close to Aunt Belle. And they got along real good, and we just enjoyed ourselves.
Rachel was also close to Clint.
Yes, she was. He took her chicken and dumplings about every week. He'd take that to her or something and sit and talk to her, and they'd talk about this and that. And they were real close, too. All my family was close.
Rachel was also very close to Aunt Jonetta.
Jonetta was my sister-in-law, and I loved her dearly. She was so good to my parents and all of us. She was just a wonderful person, always smiling, laughing. And her and Rachel was real close. Rachel was closer to her than I was because, she's seen her a lot.
True, and you were very close to Jonetta as well.
Yeah, I was close to Joe. She was, I don't know. And Charlie, they was such a good couple. They got along good, and all those children and everything, they were real happy.
They don't make them like Rachel Haskell and Uncle Charlie and Aunt Joe, do they?
No, they don't. You never see people that happy anymore. But they were. Every time you see them, they were just real happy and, talking, laughing, things like that. And
your world gets really different when you miss people like that and they're not here anymore. They're in a better place than us, but we miss them, and it just doesn't seem the same.
I know it don't. A lot of times I want to know something and I can't remember what it was or it was before, and I miss them about calling them or going to see them and letting them tell me, the things that I wanted to know.
If you wanted to know something about your history and your family, Rachel was the one to ask.
Yeah, that's the one that you go to. I wish I would have talked more to her about my family, my history. But I don't know. I just never thought she'd go that fast.
I didn't either, Mother. It was just a real shock. And I think about all the great times we had. I remember her taking us everywhere. I mean, you could ask Rachel to do something. She never turned you down.
No, she always done something, always did what you asked her, or anything. She was so free-hearted and helped people, and she was a real sweet person.
And she always gave you really good food.
Yes, she did. You never got no bad food from her because she was really, really particular of what she ate, and she was just, really ate the best food.
Now, can you tell me about you and Rachel helping your two brothers? I think it was Uncle John Henry and Charlie Burns at the restaurant that they owned on Broad Street?
Yeah, that was. Well, my two brothers, they bought this restaurant on Broad Street, and we'd go in there, and I'd help them. I'd help them, and mostly I'd run the cash register. And
you were a hostess too, right?
Yeah, I was hostess, and Rachel she waited on tables and hostess. She was, she did about everything I did.
You guys probably weren't over 15 years old, were you?
We was very young. She's older than I am, but we were just real young.
She was a real good sister to you, a big sister.
Yes, she was. She just really did things for me, and anything I needed, she was right there.
I remember Rachel and you were also very close to Lynn.
Yes, I was a little tiny girl when she passed, and her and Rachel was really close.
And Lynn had a baby named Billy, and I think, isn't that why Daddy named me, Daddy and your mom, Mama Johnson, wanted to name me Billy?
That's exactly right. They wanted to name me Billy because of Lynn's little girl that passed.
Mm-hmm. Was it a girl or a boy?
It was a boy.
Okay, so Lynn passed away, and then I guess her baby passed away a few months later.
Yes, it did.
Mom, that's tragic. I mean, you've really witnessed a lot of heartache in your life.
Yes, I have.
But you've had a lot of good times.
Yes, I just, I try not to worry and let it bother me too much because you always look to the future, and I always never did like to look back because you can't do anything about you just always have to, it happened in the past. It doesn't do you any good to think about it. Just look to the future, and that will make you more happy. You'll be happy.
Absolutely. But, you had such a large family. I remember doing an interview with your mother, my Mama Johnson, and I remember you all called her Susie. That was her name, Susie Ethel Johnson. And Mama Johnson, I did this interview with her back in the early 90s, maybe late 80s, early 90s. And I remember her telling me that she had outlived her whole family and that it had made her very sad.
Yes, it did. She lived a long life. My mother did, and she was always happy, and she worked out and took care of herself, and she lived a long life before she passed.
It's no wonder that I grew up knowing how to love, because from what I learned from, you and Mama Johnson and my aunts and uncles that had passed on before me, before us, just learned so much about how to love from all of them and my grandparents.
Yeah, we was a happy family, and we were always good to each other, and we helped each other whenever they needed it, and we'd have family dinners together, and we just go places together. And
we've got so many cousins too that I haven't even met some of them.
Yeah, they had a concert in Jonetta's yard, and we'd all go up there, and there we was, a whole bunch of us, listen to that music, and I really enjoyed that.
Yes, she was a lot of fun. I remember that time Jonetta let me take her out on the jet ski.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't believe that. But we went to Billy's Lake House, and I love going there because we'd go out on the boat, and we'd cook and have all kinds of food to eat, and we'd play and go out on the boat. And Billy got her on this jet ski. There she went, and boy, she said, I enjoyed that so much.
She told me that was one of the funnest times she ever had in her life.
Yeah, I couldn't believe she did that, but she was a lot of fun. And you never seen her mad. I don't care how many times you saw that woman. She was always smiling.
And she had a really great laugh.
She'd laugh. I'd say, I'm always kidding her, saying things, and she'd just laugh and laugh about it. So I miss her so much. It's okay.
Is there anything else that you can think of? Blue's getting squirmy here, my little puppy Blue. Is there anything else that you can think of that you'd like to add about Rachel? Anything? I know that one thing that makes me remember is, how much she loved her son-in-law, Billy Pierce.
Yes. She loved Billy Pierce, Diane's husband, and they were just so good to each other. He was good to her, and she just thought the world of him.
She loved him just like a son.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she did. She loved him just like her own son.
Well, Mom, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to sit and reflect on your family, especially your sister Rachel. I don't have enough good things to say about Rachel. She is just somebody that I will never forget. She was a strong woman. She was very smart, had a great memory, loving, compassionate, loved the Lord, loved her parents, loved her family, and she was a great role model, and she was a great aunt to me, and it taught me a lot about being an aunt when I grew up, about how you should be and how you should treat people, and I will always love and respect Aunt Rachel.
Oh, me too. I miss her, and I miss her a lot, and I'll never forget her, and I'll always remember everything she ever did for me, and I just wish she was here with us.
I want to tell you one more thing before we close on this interview. I know I told you this, but I want to remind you, I had a dream about her. It's been months ago. I dreamed about her, and she was riding in a chariot, and she had a scarf tied around her neck. It was a silk scarf, and it was very thin, and it was blowing in the wind. And she was passing by me on this big chariot, and I held my arm out and I said, Aunt Rachel, I wanted to stop and talk to her. And she put her hand up in the air and she said, I've got to go, little Billy. I'm having a glorious time.
Oh, that was wonderful.
I woke up and I had tears in my eyes, and I was happy, but I was also sad. And it just, what a dream. And she looked so beautiful and so happy. Rachel was always a beautiful woman.
Yeah, she was real pretty, I thought.
And she dressed up every single day.
You never seen her what she wasn't dressed from her feet to her head.
And the makeup and the jewelry.
Yeah, she had all that. I mean, she loved red. That was her favorite color.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
You know something else I loved about her? Her middle name was Banner.
Yes, Banner.
I think that's a beautiful name.
Banner. Yeah, I think it is. I like that name.
Rachel Banner Johnson Harrison.
Yeah, that was her name.
Well, Mom, I just want to thank you for spending this time with me on this Saturday afternoon, Easter weekend. And I look forward to our next talk and our next interview, and I hope you have a great night.
Well, you too, Billy. I love you, and I'll talk to you later.
I love you too, and God bless you, Mom.
God bless you.
Bye for now.
Bye.